think in coming into any new role, you have the chance to have an impact really in the first 3 months. So if you really analyze the business and think about what are the quick wins, where can I gain momentum in that 3 months, and then that's where you start to build your foundation. And if you don't make that impact in that first 3 months, then your life is going to be a lot harder in the coming years. And I mean, that's a little bit general to answer to your question, but I think those first 3 to 4 months are really critical to analyze the situation, decide on your actions, and then start to execute.
I would say the same. I would say generally one wants to make an impact within 30 to 90 days, and that involves the analysis, the consensus building, the approval process, and implementation of a plan that you can set in motion, I think, at the beginning of implementation.
That first 30, 60 days, you're still an outsider. But you're inside, so you can take notes, you can make observations, and I did a presentation 60 days in called the 60-Day View of what I saw the company being, and I said, and by the way, you will never get this perspective again.
I think the key thing in the in that period, whether it's 60 or 90, is to decide what the levers are going to be. And there normally can't be more than 4 or 5. And what normally happens to failed CMOs is they get caught in an activity trap where everything is positive, but they haven't decided what those 5 levers are that are really going to affect the business, the change, the consumer, whatever you're talking about.
It's funny because I agree that figuring out the model and the strategic plan, gives you your roadmap. It gives you your radar. But it's funny because I think among CMOs, that feels like the easiest part because you're getting down to the fundamentals. What kind of transformation exists. I think that the trickier part is what is the temperament of the organization? What kind of leadership team are you a part of?
I think your window is actually in the interview with your CEO. And that's the impact you want to make.
Great. I think it's
so,
right, actually.
And in my current position, that's the opportunity I felt that the way I had positioned myself both on my resume, in my biography, and in the interview process was to really try to understand what was this particular individual, what were his levers, what was he trying to do, and really gather that sort of information right up front and say, yeah, that's, I want to align marketing and I want to help you achieve that.
What matters in that kind of a situation is actually not necessarily being bold, but doing something that's a checkbox that we did something we hadn't done before and it worked.
What's the timing on early wins versus real change?
I would say early wins, I'm comfortable with, well, early wins, you want to get successes clearly, but success is really in the eye of the beholder. And in some cases, it's simply establishing credibility. That could be an early win. And I think you have 90 days to do that. And I think if you don't establish your credibility in 90 days, you don't get it. But real change, I'll go back to you're not going to get it for 10 years.
Somehow I think because of the subjectivity of our business, everybody thinks they're marketers, and they really don't like us inherently, because we're either, half of it works, half of it doesn't work, or there isn't the accountability they want. I think a lot of it in that 90 days, and I agree with you, and from the CEO, when you find out what's their mission, what do they want you to do, is building those C-suite relations. I think that's just critical.
Is there a different level of urgency to the activities of the CMO versus the activities of your other C-suite peers and colleagues?
Yes.
Are they all similarly urgent, or is the CMO's activities seemingly more urgent?
On a good leadership team, let's assume that everyone is equally dedicated and working hard. It's not a matter of that. It's a difference of roles that seek tranquility and roles that seek disruption.
Yeah,
you know, CFO, head of HR, head of legal, they seek tranquility. And our job, if we want to stay in our seats, is disruption. So it's just a fundamentally opposed, fact of life, is that if I do what the guy or gal in the seat before me did, and I just keep doing that, well, there's a reason I'm in this seat and they're not any longer. So I need to change. I have to have that urgency, and we need to make a difference.
What's the timing on the introduction of disruptive tactics versus disruptive platforms?
I think the first part of it is actually convincing the rest of the suite that there's a problem to solve. I mean, because in a lot of ways, the status quo is the easy thing to do, and especially for the tranquility crowd, it's the comfortable thing to do. And I think the beginning of the platform is basically saying, hey, we actually have an issue here that we should deal with. Can I at least get buy-in on that? Even before you talk about tactics, here's a problem I'm trying to fix. Here's what I'm thinking of. Don't know what I'm going to do, but this is a real problem, don't you think?
Well, this discussion clearly could go on all night. This has been fantastic. You've made my job incredibly easy. I'm so glad that it's been a great
quick win for
conversation.
you.